The Justice Department has seized phone records of reporters and editors at the Associated Press in what the news organisation's chief describes as a massive and unprecedented incursion into journalist activities. Good morning and welcome to the News Hub. I'm Michael Casey. Joining us from Washington to tell us about this dramatic federal action and its implications for journalists is Wall Street Journal news editor Peter Landers. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, Michael.
So, this is really quite a remarkable story. Just give us the details for now. Why are they doing this?
Well, this was part of a leak investigation that started last year when the AP had a scoop about a counterterrorism operation in Yemen. And apparently there was a second underwear bomber. You may remember the first one in 2009 who nearly blew up the plane. This was the second one who the United States caught before any terrorist act was able to take place. And it turned out actually that this alleged terrorist was a mole working for some friendly intelligence agency. So it was a big AP scoop at the time, and the U.S. actually tried to hold it off for a while. After it came out, there was a question of how did this leak get out into the public?
Right, now, but this is remarkable. I mean, it's not necessarily unprecedented that the government has tried to force journalists to divulge their sources. In this case, it's actually phone records. But it's rare. Just tell our viewers a little bit about, some of the controversy that tends to revolve around these sorts of issues and why this is such an important issue for media organizations.
Right, well, the records of 20, I think a total of 20 phone numbers from 5 or 6 AP reporters and editors were sought by and gained by the U.S. government in this case, and that is seemingly unprecedented. It's more than we've known in previous cases when there were leak investigations. And that's why it is of concern to AP and also Dow Jones, which publishes the Wall Street Journal, expressed some concern about this, possibly having a chilling effect on reporters' work if they know that anybody they call, that the record of that phone call, if not the content of the phone call itself, but at least the record, would later end up in government hands. That could have some kind of chilling effect.
Right, but there's no real protection for journalists in this case, at least at the federal level. But there's some controversy, of course, because certain states have shield laws that protect journalists and give them the right to not divulge their sources, and other countries, in fact, have blanket laws. Is there any chance that this, could evolve into some sort of challenge?
Well, there has long been talk of a federal shield law. I'm sure that talk will revive a little bit in light of this incident, but it's always been a delicate balance because you do have, in this case, the question of national security, and if it's really true that there's some mole inside the U.S. government who's leaking sensitive information, perhaps the government might say that it needs these powers in special circumstances to look at the records of what reporters have been doing. So there's always that balance there.
Right. But it's also, it seems, how this was handled. It doesn't seem that everybody was on board. The White House claims to not have known about it, for example, and it could emerge as something of a controversy, a third of recent controversies for President Obama in his new term. What happened there? Was there any warning given in advance?
Not to the AP or to the White House. I mean, as far as the White House is concerned, this is an independent probe by the Justice Department. Of course, the Justice Department ultimately reports to the Obama White House, but in this case, as often is the case with law enforcement investigations, it's conducted independently by the Justice Department. They're not informing the White House of what they're doing, who they're seeking records from, or anything like that. That's why Jay Carney, White House spokesman, said we knew nothing about this when he was asked about it last night.
Any sense of how the AP might respond to this?
Well, they've strongly protested it. I'm not sure if there's any legal action possible in this case. I suppose they could sue the government and say that this was improper. But at the moment, they're just making the case for freedom of the press and making the case that this was an unprecedented, and they would say unjustified, intrusion into the daily work of these AP reporters who got this important exclusive.
Well, it's a rich story. Thank you very much, Peter, for your time.
Sure thing.